Spartans! What is your profession?
Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be having a look at the premium vehicles which were available in the Warbond shop for December. Now, having a look over this, this isn't as impressive as the last month, and also it seems like one of the key aspects has been taken away, which kind of saddens me, but maybe it'll be back next time. Another thing to also mention is on the Tech Hub Discord, we are going to be starting our festive stuff today, so make sure to check that stuff out and get involved in it. The first thing onto the Warbond shop stuff as well, there is actually a nice little link here in this article at the bottom, which they always put in, where can you find the Warbonds, and you know, it shows you how to do them and what you have to do to create them, so therefore I don't have to go through them. So we're just going to focus on the vehicles and also the other boxes which are available today. The other thing as well is in this thing, there is actually a typo. You can see here it says 75mm f34 cannon. I'm pretty sure the f34 was a 76, but you know, what do I know? So that is something that probably needs to get changed. Anyway, let's get into the game. Let's have a look at what's going on with this new Warbond shop and what is missing, which is very sad to see. So, you can see this is the new Warbond shop, 30 days, and obviously a lot of these vehicles I already own, so, you know, therefore I can have a decent chat about them. The battle trophy vehicle is exactly the same as before, so nothing has changed here. You need, of course, the 14 medals, the level 5 shop, and 3,400 Warbonds, but all of the vehicles are exactly the same. Remember, you can actually sell this box on the Gaijin market if you have access to it, and get yourself some money to be able to either spend on premium or packs. So I know that's definitely a way that people can convert, you know, Warbonds into Gaijin coin, and therefore convert that into stuff that they want to purchase in different areas of the game. The decal this week is the Sphinx emblem, and I've got to say it is really nice. We'll actually have a look at a better res one right here. And you can see it's very well made. It's lovely to see. Overall, it is... I always like decals which have much defined lines on them, because then they just look pretty. You know, they actually stand out a little bit more than the ones which are a bit more wishy-washy. Another thing to also point out, because normally I do these videos alongside the week's latest stuff, the week's latest stuff is still going. And I don't know why, because it says until the 28th, right? But at least I completed the Soviet one yesterday. So I'm not sure what's going on with the week's latest decals. They're late by a few days. I'm guessing Gaijin is just incredibly busy with stuff, or they're just waiting for something to happen. It just seems a little bit odd that we have a Warbond shop which is missing some elements, and also having decals which, you know, haven't been refreshed yet until the week's latest. So yeah, that kind of sucks. But anyway, the Sphinx looks nice. Then on top of this as well, if you look at these two different shops, this is the old shop from last month, and of course this is the present shop, there is something which is missing, and there is actually a few things that are missing. So you can see already between all of these areas, there is a box which is missing from here. So you only have one less test drive box, which is very sad to see. And then also on top of this, the new box is not there either. This one, the box that they added in last Warbond shop, which I thought was really cool, where you could get one of the old pinups or one of the old emblems from the rest of the year. For some reason, in the new box, this being the last Warbond shop of the year, there is none of this new box. This new box has just disappeared. So I don't know whether they just trialed it for a month and then just decided to get rid of it. I have no idea why, but in my opinion, this box should come back. There is no reason for this box to not be there. Even if nobody is picking it up, there has to be a way in the future to be able to pick up these decals to, be able to be used. And the only other way you could really do it, I suppose, is if you wanted to do it through the Gaijin market, but in my opinion, that would not be a very nice idea. So overall, It's kind of sad that this box has just disappeared, and also kind of sad we have one less test drive. We also have less vehicles when it comes to the actual ones that you can get. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 overall that can be earned. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and a 7th. So I don't know why this one, after having such an amazing Warbond shop last month. You know, we had a cool decal, we had the fact that you could get the old decals, you had some really good Warbond vehicles, and some rare ones as well, like the TB3M. The TB3M coming back, you had an extra vehicle test drive, and we're missing all of these this time. It's as if somebody just reverted back to the old system instead of keeping any of the new things, and that is kind of sad to me. I hope personally that is changed, or, you know, I hope in the new year we have some of these options added once again. So let's have a look at the vehicle test drives. The first one is the T14 T14 is a rank 5, battle rating 8.0. I suppose it's labeled as a medium tank in game. Is it labeled as a medium tank or a heavy tank? This is a premium vehicle for the US, which has a really nice autoloader on it and pretty decent armor, but at the level that it's at 8.0, it's labeled as a medium tank. The area that it's at 8.0, what happens is it gets up-tiered quite a lot into 8.7, because obviously a lot of people are running the premium, stuff like the MX-30 Super, the OF40 MTCA at 9.0 nowadays, the L44, you know, you've even got stuff like the Shock Cal delay that you've got to watch out for, and the key thing between a lot of 8.7s and 8.3s is that they have stabilizers. The T14 does not have a stabilizer, so therefore its gun is not exactly easy to be able to get on target, or at least it takes you a second or two longer to get the gun on target compared to a lot of the machines that you'll face, so you won't be able to get the first shot off, and then you'll be, you know, in not a great position. If you are able to get that first shot off, though, you do have some nice stuff, such as this Heat FS round with 380mm of pen, a APDS round, which I don't know why you would use it, and then the APBC round, which does a ton of damage behind it. It also has a 5-second reload, which is lovely, pretty much out-reloads a lot of machines at this tier. There aren't many things that out-reload it. The top 50 cal is really nice too, and even though it is 54.4 tons, it still goes around at a canter. This is a fun vehicle to use, but the problem is it doesn't really fit the meta. It's too tall, its armor is not good enough, and on top of this as well, you have the lack of stabilizer and stabilization in general of the gun, which means that you just get outdone by the stuff which does have it. The next one to have a look at is the SU-100P. This is garbage. There is literally no point in picking this one up. This was one of the OG premiums that was available for the Soviets. The 122mm D25S is a quite nice gun, actually. But the problem is it gets access to this shell here, the APC-BC shell, which pens 230, and this is just good enough to go through stuff like Tiger II's turrets. That's how bad this gun is. You know, this isn't a gun where you can lol pen anything you feel like, which you would wish you would had from a tank destroyer, which is at 6.3, which is going to face a lot of 6.7s. But as you can see from the Tiger II-H, this is 185. This is also this is 185, and then the upper glacis is 214. A lot of the time, what will happen, especially with this SU-122P, is you won't be able to go through this at a lot of ranges, and therefore you'll just get, well, twatted by it. You can see from here, you can't go through the upper glacis, so you pretty much have this little weak spot right here, which you can go through, and even then, it's a rough, weak shot to hit. You can see it didn't even kill the vehicle with that shell, and on top of that as well, the Tiger II-H and other heavies, which are even stronger than the Tiger II-H, like the T29, T34, which are meta at 6.7, can just eat you alive. So for me, when I think about the SU-122P, I do not see the point in, you know, using your Warbonds on it. It has a long reload, no gun depression, no turret. I suppose it has a little bit of speed behind it. That's really about it. And I suppose if you have everything else and you want to test it out, maybe, but this would be very low down the list. of vehicles to use. It has absolutely no armor on the front. 75mm will get you absolutely nowhere at 6'3", and why would you use this? It's just not a good vehicle in any sense. It kind of the Soviet line, which it is kind of part of, even though it's not in the line, this part of the line right here, from about the Su-152 onwards to pretty much the Object 268, is not fun. It's really not fun. There are some outliers. The 12254, once you actually get the upgraded rounds, is alright. Then you have, the 100, which can do okay, but everything else is just garbage alongside this 122p, because they have 2 long reloads, they have no armor, and they have no gun depression and no turret. So just miss that one. The Cromwell Mk5, though, if you want to have a bit of fun and you want to just run around and throw rockets at people, I don't think is a terrible idea. It's just a normal Cromwell Mk5 with the 75mm, which has access to the 4 RP3 rockets, meaning that you can just annoy people with them, I suppose. They have 75mm worth of pen. If you penetrate somebody with them, you are going to do a lot of damage to them, which is really nice. And also, the Cromwell in general is a fun vehicle. It's got a lot of speed behind it, it's got good dual drive, it's got really good gun depression, it's got a decent gun with a lot of penetration at 3.3, and also you have, well, I suppose your survivability isn't the best, but it's alright if you can angle it pretty well. The other thing as well is at 3.3 you have a really nice lineup for the British. You can run it with the other Cromwells that are around the place. The Cromwell Mk5, you can run the Cromwell 1 and the Sherman 2 at 3.7. You got stuff like the Churchill Mark 1, which is really fun to play. The Archer, which is surprisingly good with that 17-pounder at 3.3. And then aviation-wise, you can also fill in some wonderful gaps with stuff like the Spitfire at 3.3, and then of course the Beaufighter Mark 10. And even if you want to go lower, all of these aircraft do really well in ground realistic just because of their general playstyles. So for me, the Cromwell, if you aren't very far through the British tree and want to have a bit of fun, it's a good pickup. The next vehicle which is on offer is the L44. Now of course this is the vehicle that the majority of people are going to gravitate to. The reason is because it's a really good vehicle, and with the addition of thermals, just to annoy everybody else who has to face the damn thing, it is time to be able to just point and click and not even think about aiming anymore, because with my experience recently, I've been playing the Centauro, I've been playing the Warrior, I've been playing the Bradley quite a lot, so not top tier, but I've been trying to grind out thermals. Thermals are completely ridiculous. They are insane when it comes to usability. This means that if you don't have thermals and you're facing stuff which does have thermals, it is not a fair fight. It is just not, and I'm really sad to say that I wish it wasn't added to the game. I'm fine with night vision in general and the different ways of looking into the game, but there really has to be some thought put into, gaps between thermal vehicles and non-thermal vehicles. Because now, with something like the A1A1L44, where you already had a LOL pen round, which goes at 1650 meters per second with a sub than 10-second reload, with good gun depression, with a slightly bouncy turret, but not really bouncy turret. Now you can do all that, and you can see people from absolutely miles away without any thoughts. You can see the smoke that their engine gives off, and you can see the general heat signature that is, coming from the vehicle. It is so brain dead to play. It is insanely brain dead to play this vehicle and others such as the AMX-30 Super, which have night vision. And just to add to that, the A1A1 in the tech tree doesn't get thermals, because screw you, that's why. So if you really want a really good vehicle which is just really dumb to play and point and click, just play this and have fun. So that so far is the pick out of the 4. It's definitely better than these ones, and the Cromwell, even though it's fun, it's quite low tier, so it won't be as good for research purposes. The J2M5 comes in as our last vehicle and our only vehicle for the air when it comes to test drives. It would be nice if we had some ship test drives, maybe helicopter ones, maybe not helicopter ones, but definitely ship test drives, for this, or maybe a few more plane ones. But the only plane one on offer right now is the J2M5, and it's probably the worst of the J2 series because of its armament. you're looking at two 30mm Type 5s with 84 rounds of ammunition. This is just not really satisfactory at 4.7. Yes, you'll get a few kills, but when you compare it to the other J2s which are around the place, you can do so much damage with them. The universal belt is really nice though, with a lot of heft involved, and also the stealth belt as well if you are confident with using the the belts without traces. But the J2M5, you can have a look at stuff like the J2M4, which is just the J2M5 with a better performance and also better guns. Then you have the two J2M3s, which are once again better versions of it. Then you have stuff like the A7M2. It's very hard, even like the A6M5 Co, right, which is available on the Guardian store. This is just a much better feeling than playing this because of the guns that are involved. So for me, it's definitely no on the J2M5, and if you want to pick one of these, just go with the A1A1044 and turn your brain off. The next pass that we're going to be having a look at, obviously they haven't changed either of the profiles. All of these have stayed the same for an incredibly long time, which is why you can see I have all of them. And then, of course, you have all the bushes and the decorations. All of these have stayed exactly the same. None of them have changed, which hopefully in the new year they will. Let's get on to the vehicles that are available in this Warbond shop. The first one is the T-35, the Soviet land ship at 1.3, has access to a 76mm, but mainly this 45mm is the general killer. The T-35 is an incredibly good tank for 1.3, has great survivability because, of course, you can see it has 10 crew, so you have to knock out 8 members before it even goes down. It has a flurry of wonderful guns on it, including 2 45s, not just one looking forward, but one looking back. The armor is kind of not great, meaning that you will get, auto cannon down over a period of time, but it's pretty much impossible to one-shot this thing unless, you get unlucky in it and you get ammo racked, which is, quite hard to do. It's also got a large booty, so you've got to make sure to always be going forward with it, otherwise you're going to get caught out on your flanks and this engine and transmission is going to get hit. But even though this thing is a land ship with 52 tons, it goes at 28 kilometers an hour. I want to point out that is 10 kilometers an hour faster than the Black Prince. This thing can go 10 kilometers faster than the Black Prince. Insane, isn't it? So yeah, you have pretty good gun depression. You have, pretty good guns for 1.3, and you'll just be able to maul people. With the 76, it's got 37mm of pen, which is enough, and then of course 70 on the 45s, which is easily enough to deal with any targets that are around. So it's a fun vehicle. Yes, it's a meme vehicle. And yes, it's low tier, so it's not going to be good for research, but if you have pretty much everything else, I would recommend it, just because it's something that you can go back to once maybe you've had a rough day in War Thunder, maybe you've had a rough day at work or whatever it is, and you can just boot this thing up and just have a bit of fun with some mates and run around in the land ship. Very much similar to the TB3M idea. The BF-109E7 is the Japanese BF-109, has access to the same loadout as the E3, two 20mm MGFFs and two 792 MG17s. I personally am fine with the MGFFs. I know a lot of people don't really like them because of their low velocity. I think once you get used to them, they're completely fine. And as somebody who played a lot of stuff like the E1, E3, when I first started the game, I got used to the MGFS very quickly. And also, you do have to understand that with 120 rounds, you do have to use them sparingly, but, you'll get used to that. Another thing as well is this doesn't get access to secondary weapons, so you are an out-and-out fighter. The penetration on these belts for these guns is not good enough. The most you're going to get is 23, and that's only with 120 rounds, and that's with, I think, 1 round out of 5 from the stealth belt. Even in something like the universal belt, you're only getting 19mm worth of pen. So this isn't a tank killer, this isn't a ground killer, this is an air superiority fighter. Now at 3.0 you can definitely run it with a bunch of Japanese ground vehicles because it does scale well into 3.3, 3.7. It also has that nice little premium bonus as well, and well, it's a BF-109E. It climbs well, it turns well. There isn't many things that the BF-109E does badly. The only thing it does badly is when it runs into a fighter which is specifically good at something great. So if you run into a really good climber, you're going to struggle like a P-38, or sorry, an XP-38. If you run into something that turns really well and you engage them in a turn fight, such as Spitfire, then you're going to struggle. So it's more about just picking the correct battles and also understanding that you will have an advantage over your enemy. You just have to identify it, and you can do really well in this aircraft. And also, you get alongside a lot of the Zeros and a lot of the stuff like the Key 44s and the Key... Oh, I can't remember what they're called. The Key 43s, there we go, which are incredibly good as well. So the E7 is a really nice little pickup if you are trying to get into Japan. The Hudson Mach5, this big mamba jamba. It has, of course, the decent defensive weaponry, all 7.7s though. So, you know, it is how it is. 2 7.7 Brownings on the top and then a 7.7 on the bottom. And also, it should have some more 7.7s somewhere. Oh no, sorry, it has the offensive 7.7, so it has 2 7.7s looking forward. I use this as a weird pseudo bomber hunter. It's one of those things which I just throw out there and have fun with while I take these AP rockets and also these bombs. I bomb a base and I try and take out an enemy bomber with the rockets and the and the offensive armament. Even though it's only 2 7.7s, at 2.0 it can definitely do a lot of damage to stuff like, you know, JU-88s that you see, JU-87s, stuff like that, which, you know, spawns at a decently high altitude. So for me, overall, I really enjoy this vehicle, and it's definitely a lot of fun. It's also a lot more maneuverable than a lot of the other bombers that you'll see out there, and survivability-wise, I mean, it's okay. It's not the best, and yes, the bomb load could be better, but if you use it as that pseudo, you know, heavy fighter against the bombers, it's pretty fun. The next vehicle is the IR-81C. This is one of the user-made vehicles in War Thunder, and it does need a little bit of help. It is sat in the Italian tech tree as a premium, and at 2.7, I think overall it's a good vehicle. It just takes a little bit of time to get going. So at 2.7, you'll find out a lot of matches, you know, the engagement starts around about the 5 to 8 minute mark, and the IR-81C, just like a lot of other planes like the Corsair, is generally not at altitude by the time that those battles happen. So therefore you become this pseudo cleanup fighter or this 2-on-1 fighter instead of a fighter which is dominating the battlefield. But it makes up with this once it gets up to that altitude. Once it gets up there, it has an amazing dive for a 2.7. It has insanely good armament as a 2.7 and also has great speed. The only thing it struggles with is the actual initial hit, you know, of the battle. So if you can try and negate the effects of that and hope your team can deal with that, then you can become a cleanup merchant. So yeah, it has 2 MG151s, which are easily enough to destroy anything. It has 350 rounds of ammunition with those MG151s and has 2 7.92s with a bunch of ammo as well. Also, over the period of time it's been available, they've also added some extra little additions to it just to give it more use in a ground forces style of way. So this isn't just a vehicle which is good in air realistic, it's also okay in ground realistic. I would say that there are better fighters though, better because this thing doesn't really do well like a low altitude and slow. It would be much better picking up something else, such as, you know, C205s or C202s, which are going to be better in that low altitude, you know, turning meta which you have in ground forces. So yeah, the IR is fun. I enjoy it personally, but it does take a little bit of time to get going. And the second to last vehicle is the T14, this little monstrosity, the Fat Sherman, as it's known. And the Fat Sherman has access to the 75mm M3 cannon. It sits itself at 4.3, has a 50 cal, which is always nice. good gun depression, you know, -10, has, of course, the stabilizer that all of these Shermans have, a great reload rate on top of it, and also the chunky monkey armor. So the T14 is actually a really nice vehicle to have. It complements the 4.3 lineup pretty well for the Americans, and the reason for that is because you can actually side-scrape effectively in it. The only problem with side-scraping effectively is once you look at the targets, you only still have this 76.2mm turret, but if you can try and side-scrape before the enemy fires, you can easily get this area up to about, you know, 130 to 200. You've just got to watch out for this little bit here, which is only 104, which is still really strong for 4.3. But yeah, it's something to worry about. So if you're looking straight at a target, then it's really easy to kill this thing. If you're looking at the side, obviously the same. But yeah, I like it. It has a lot of good attributes to it. You know, the gun itself is good, especially after the DeMar formula changes with the M61 shell. You can pretty much go through the front of KVs a hell of a lot easier, and you can deal with anything else that you find. Your main competitor is going to be stuff like the Panzer IV F2. And you have the same speed as it, you have a stabilizer which is better than it, you have better reload than it, you have the same gun depression as it, and you do the same damage as it. So overall, you know, it does really well. And as I said, at 4.3, the Americans have a pretty fun lineup when it comes to the ground vehicles. Let's find it. There we go. So at 4.3, you can run it with stuff like the M4A2, you can run it with stuff like the M24 even, or you could up tier it into 4.7. Maybe they don't have the best 4.3 lineup actually. I thought it was better than this. Maybe I was just looking at it wrong. So you'd have to run this as at actually top tier. So you'd have to carry in it and, you know, do well in it, and then you could definitely have the plane alongside it, the P47D25, which is incredibly good, and also the F6F5N, which is okay. You know, I don't rate it too much myself, but I think it's all right. You could also run the P51 with it, so yeah, maybe it's not as good as I thought it was when it came to lineup. I thought these guys were a little bit higher, so I apologize for that. But it's still a solid vehicle, just maybe doesn't have the lineup sat around it. The last vehicle is the T34 747. This is, of course, the German T34, has access to the 76mm F34 cannon with the 7.62. It doesn't have any side skirts, is painted, you know, of course, the German color to make it not be, well, to make it not look, you know, Soviet in the simulator battles, and they actually gave it a skin which is, you know, green and brown, so they've actually made it look Soviet, or made it look Soviet. So isn't that wonderful? That's a user created skin that you can find on the market, which is very sad to see that they decided to add in. But overall, it's a pretty good vehicle. It makes the part of the captured 4.0 lineup, which is a disgraceful lineup for Germany. One that I will never play because it is ridiculous. You have the Panzerkampfwagen Churchill 3, you've got the KV-1B, and you also have the T-34 747R. This is an insanely good lineup, especially when the KV-1B is at the head of it. I know a lot of people have said in the past that, oh, the KV-1B isn't as good as before. No, it's still crazy good. It's still an amazing vehicle, and when it's backed up by a German T-34 and a Churchill, it does really well, because pretty much the counters to these vehicles are the Germans. So if you run them with the Germans, and also, you know, generally you don't face Japan and stuff like that with the long 75s, you do crazy well in them. Like, if you want the pub stomping lineup, this is it right here. You get nice premium bonuses, you get nice RP bonuses, and the T-34 747 is part of that lineup. So yeah, it's a good vehicle, has a crazy premium lineup around it, and if you just want it to supplement the standard tech tree stuff, it's also quite nice. So as you can see, the offerings are not the best this time, but I do think the IR-81C is a good pick. The T-34 is also a good pick. T-14 is probably third. Fourth for the BF-109E7, even though it's really good, it is a rank 2. It's not going to give you, you know, great RP. It's got really good SL behind it, though. Hudson is sat at a fifth. Even though I enjoy it, I also, once again, it's a rank 2. Really doesn't have very good rewards. And also, if you you want to use it as a bomber, not too good. But if you want to use it as a heavy fighter, it's fun, but, you know, not great. And then the last one, is it the last one? Wait, let's do the count again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. So yeah, if you would only get the T-35 if you wanted a land ship and you wanted to, you know, basically own it. It is a lot of fun. It is really great just playing with a bunch of mates, but at the same time, if we're looking at just how useful it is research-wise, it ain't very useful. So yeah, it's definitely a miss, even though if you have all the rest, like I have, apart from the T14, I would definitely say it's worth a pickup. Anyway, I hope you all have enjoyed this video, and, well, I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Blackie, Daniel Stanton, Jay Wilt, John Ryman, Joseph Anders, Martinez, Moxie, Super Cacti, Uyins Terry, Elove Goat, and Seductive Trashcan for supporting the channel.